welcome to everybody to our November Trainer Connection. And it is On Track for Success, a conversation about school-age training needs. And that is exactly what we want this to be today, is a conversation. We want to hear your voices today and find out what needs there are in school-age training and what we can do to facilitate more school-age trainings. All right, so first we're going to start out with just some statistics. And what is the after-school program status in Kentucky? This was very interesting to us. There are 1,579 out-of-school time programs in Kentucky, serving 78,912 enrolled students, but there is a wait list of 280,552 students. 1,364 of those are licensed or certified, which is 86% of the total. So this did come from the CAIOSA website. And there is a link there if you want to look further into that. What do you all think about that? Did that surprise you that there are that many enrolled students, but that many on wait list for school age? Anybody? Bueller?
I'm surprised there's so many waitlisted.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that there's more waitlisted than enrolled, but I'm surprised at that number.
Okay.
It just seems big.
And this is from 2020. So I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the pandemic and the way things were back then, but okay. All right.
Linda mentioned many are home alone as well.
Yes, that's probably a true statement. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to talk just a little bit about the importance of school-age training. And research does indicate professional development is vital to success of after-school programs because it enhances program quality by facilitating staff performance and knowledge. And as trainers, we probably know that that is true. It improves student outcomes and it contributes to increased staff satisfaction and retention. And we do have our resource there at the bottom with links. If you want to check that out more. Does anybody else have any statistic that they know about school age or something that they would like to share before we start to talk? You guys are way too quiet for a conversation today. I'm just saying. Okay.
I was an after-school director for many years for the Army.
Okay.
And when you work in Army programs, you're required by law, federal law, to be nationally accredited. So I have, and I also, when I did my master's program, I majored in youth development and after-school programming. So it's something that I've worked in for many, many, many years.
Well, good. We're very glad that you're here today. Okay, so today we would actually, like we said at the beginning, start a conversation about school-age training. And you can go ahead and there we go. And we want to hear from you, and we want to make this a complete discussion to find out what you are finding in the training world about school-age training. As training coaches, we find that providers are really looking for school-age training specific to them. We know that there's a lot of multi-age training out there that they join. A lot of times the school-age teachers or providers will take a preschool training because that's all that they can find. So that's why we're having this discussion, because it is a big need in the state of Kentucky. And other training coaches can pipe in if they'd like to about what's happening in their region, but we know in most of the regions this is the case. So as we progress, there are some questions that we're going to generate, but if you have a question or a concern or any topic that you'd like to talk about, please feel free to do that, and you can unmute or you can do it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. All right. Here we go. So what challenges are there in offering school-age training? As trainers, what are you finding are some of the things that keep you from offering school-age trainings? This was one of the questions that we asked on the needs assessment for registration. So
It is true that you have to think about all the ages. Some after-school programs have kindergartners all the way up to 5th and 6th grade.
yes,
And for me, how can I put this in a positive way? For me, one of the biggest things is changing people's attitudes towards school-age care.
Okay.
And recognizing how capable school-age children are and how
Absolutely.
that program belongs to them and they should be able to set the rules. I used to require when my staff did lesson plans that at least 3 children signed off on them, that they would sit with a group of children and talk with them about what they wanted to do. I have a whole different attitude toward homework that some programs don't even want to talk about that.
Okay.
So training after school staff in itself is a challenge to change their thinking about school-age children and what a program should be.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for sharing. So we have a few in the chat as well. Somebody said that there are fewer trainees with school age training, not knowing what content they would like to be trained on. And then somebody put teachers aren't sure if their local professional development committees or district will accept the hours as credit. Okay, I'll have to ask, I'm not familiar with local professional development committees. Are we talking maybe school districts? Is that what we're thinking?
Yes, there are quite a few school districts that their local professional development committees are the ones who decide if the training hours count towards the teachers needing to take a certain number of hours per year. And some districts, not all, particularly those in Ohio, but some in Kentucky use professional development committees to make those decisions.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. And then somebody said, my courses are online and self-paced. I have 5 school-age specific courses, but I have trouble thinking of ideas for courses that are specific to them. Okay. And I might ask, has anybody done a needs assessment to their school-age providers that to ask what trainings they're looking for or what topics they might be interested in?
So I have kind of polled the area up here as far as with like some of the 21st century programs with licensing wraparounds, some of our before and after schools. And the overwhelming thing that I am hearing over and over again is more training on children with special needs.
Okay.
And how to deal with challenging behaviors. They're seeing a lot of escalations in the after school programs with challenging behaviors. And they feel like that whenever they take a training, they describe challenging behaviors, but they're not given strategies and tools that are useful for them, or they're only given 1 or 2 and then those don't work and they get frustrated with them.
Okay.
And so, a lot of training around that. Unfortunately, that's not a one and done, like, okay, here's a 2-hour training and let's move on. This is a continuous training, that kind of needs to happen. The other thing that I'm hearing too, just in challenges of offering school age trainings is that when they go to look for school age trainings, they always have to contact somebody to try to get information and they're not hearing back from the trainers. They said it's really easy to find early childhood, preschool trainings. There's a ton of free ones that are offered, but when you go to look for school age, there's not free trainings. And so there's a barrier to get them getting to the trainings. If they know they need hours in 2 weeks and they email the instructor and the instructor doesn't get back to them, or the instructor just emails them a PowerPoint they're supposed to read and then fill out a question and answer sheet and then turn it back in for credit, that's not helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's really, really very helpful. I actually wrote down some of these that you were talking that they were looking for. So are you, Tammy, personally doing any of those? Are you doing the challenging behaviors or the special needs training for school age?
So right now I'm in the trainer academy for the special needs, the trainer academy, looking at some of that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I love the trainer academy for special needs, but I don't feel like it covers the necessary all the topics for special needs. I feel like we started off really strong in that area of special needs, and now we've kind of deviated from it and kind of thrown additional trainings in there that maybe are a little bit off topic. Obviously homelessness, yes, is a concern, and that is an ACE that a child is experiencing, but that's not necessarily children with special needs. Does that make sense? That's more of ACEs and ACEs training. And that's kind of where we get in the weeds with special needs training is, we kind of just talk about a child that might have autism and what it might look like and what it might look like in an after school program. But then we just say, oh, structure and visual schedules will work. And then we move on to something else. But there's a lot more in depth than that.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're just scratching the surface on some of this stuff. And that's not helping our providers. Scratching the surface is great, but the itch is still there, right?
Right.
So we need to get down deeper and really offer some concrete trainings that give them tools that they can use on a daily basis.
Okay, perfect. And that's going to kind of overflow into another question that we're going to generate in a minute. Will come back to you. Any other challenges out there for anybody? Does anybody feel comfortable? How many of our trainers that are on here today feel comfortable doing school age training? This is just kind of a random question. Because I feel like, if providers are asking for these type of trainers, we need to find trainers that feel comfortable doing that. I have a couple that said yes, that they do. I do. I was a school age teacher for many years, but I only do online. Okay. I think there are more preschool, infant, toddler teachers than school age. Yes. Yeah. So maybe we need to start recruiting more school age trainings. I'm just saying that for the training coaches. Anyway, sorry, that was a thought in my head. So let's see if all of them were covered. So I'm looking at what you all put before. Somebody said not very aware of the curriculum for school age training or school age childcare. Somebody said they need to learn more about the topic in general, how to reach the audiences that need it. And knowing what topics school age providers are interested in. We kind of talked about that. Somebody said that they don't think that there's as much content for school age as for preschool and infant toddler. I don't know if somebody on here was the person who answered that, but can somebody kind of clarify that, what they mean by not enough content? So that you're not finding enough research and resources to find that content, or you just feel like it's very limited?
I'll say that it is very limited because I had some people approach me as a training coach and I searched back through training titles to see what was school age out there, and there wasn't much. There was very little. And I think there's also a lot of people, well, I do trainings that could reach all ages, but do you have stuff that's specific for school age?
Yes.
Because really they want stuff that's specific to them and not just anybody could take it.
Okay.
And Dawn, one thing that I hear just as a health and safety coach, kind of going back to what Tammy just said, and then on Julie, some of the directors, they're looking for people that can teach their staff how to do something like do yoga or what games to play, and actually learn to play the games so that then their staff are equipped. They have so many young, inexperienced staff working in their programs. One director even said she would love to find somebody that would do little 3-minute snippets that she could forward to her staff, to their cell phones before they even come to work, to learn how to play Foursquare today or something. Like they're looking for real content, and it's on a real basic level in a lot of the programs I'm working at. They just don't know how to play with school age children.
Okay, that's very helpful too. Okay, thank you, Brummel. Okay, we hope that you will get some tips today. I can't, and again, it is very limited, like Julie said. And it got another one in chat. It almost has to be someone who has been a school age provider. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so let's switch to the next slide.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, Tammy brought up a great point too, about making sure your calendar trainings are up to date, that it's frustrating when people need a training and they find something and then they reach out and it's not offered or they don't hear back.
Absolutely.
Or even if you haven't trained school age or work school age, but have school age children yourself, like what what would you want them to be doing in the school age program after school that like you feel like you would be getting good value from the money that you're investing in care. So that might be another lens to look at it through.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So somebody said in the chat, how does it work TRIS wise when you have an expert to help in a training? Okay, so I'm guessing, Carla, that your question is if you're going to bring somebody in with you. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's correct. So
Okay.
for example, a yoga instructor or maybe health nutritionist from the health department, you know, anyone that's not a certified credential trainer, I guess I should say.
And you can do that as a guest speaker. You just have to, as the credential trainer, if you're going to do it that way, you have to be the one that's doing the majority of the training and not them, because you're the one that's still giving the hours. Another thing is if you have somebody that is a guest speaker, I guess the other thing to do is maybe ask if they want to do a specialty credential. They could do that as well. And we do have actually somebody that does yoga for preschoolers. And the reason why she's a certified trainer in that is because she is licensed as a yoga instructor. So she comes in and teaches the preschool teachers how to do yoga with their children. So that, I mean, that is an option, but that's the only thing that she can train on. So a couple of options for you there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so Lauren also said, and please put lots of details in the training descriptions. Yes, absolutely. The more clear and vivid that your training description is, the better the participants are going to know what it is exactly you're going to be training on and what they're going to be learning. So that's very helpful. And they will know that it's very specific to school age. Okay.
One of the things that we used to do a lot of programming around with our children was life skills. We taught them how to sew on buttons, how to cook. We invited them to bring a pillowcase full of dirty laundry and showed them how to separate colors and do their own laundry. We did some basic first aid, what to do in an emergency, what to do if you're home alone for safety. Just all those life skills are, and parents can't believe that their children have learned all these things. I've seen moms say, will you teach me how to sew on a button when we get home? And even the boys, I had one staff person and I used to, when I interviewed staff, I would ask them what their hobbies were so that they could bring that in and do that with the kids. And one lady loved to crochet, so she taught the children how to crochet. And I found later kids sitting around after, you know, she had put away all the materials, they were crocheting with their fingers because they loved it so much.
Oh, wow.
So life skills are really popular. And again, the kids need to decide what they want to do as far as programming. And I was going to say with training, as far as guidance and discipline with school age children, many times I found that the program was the problem and not the children. They were bored. They didn't, you know, they didn't have things to do that they wanted to do. They didn't have choices. So sometimes improving the quality of the program can improve children's behavior.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and that could be a training in itself, is how to provide voice choices in an after school program or out of school time for providers. Like, you know, how do you incorporate a voice choice maybe with snack once a month, or how do you incorporate voice choice with allowing them to choose the game that they want to play, the craft? Maybe you have clubs on Tuesdays and Thursdays like we do, and they get to choose, you know, the clubs for that month, you know, and what activities they're going to do. So there's a whole entire training that can be done around voice choice as well.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so those of you who actually are doing some training, and I think most of us on here are either thinking about doing it or have done some school age training, where do you find resources for creating your training? So all of these things that you're talking about would be great. Where do you find resources to help you create those? When you're sitting down doing your training plans or figuring out what you're going to do or what activities, where are you finding those? Because this I hear is a problem. So does anybody want to share where they get theirs from? Are you doing it just from your experience?
I think part of it's experience, part of it's having that idea and then Googling it, to be perfectly honest with you, to see if there are other resources out there that have already been done that you can, you know, take snippets of or recreate or do. I also pull, I still have a lot of my college textbooks and things out back from when I did my master's program. And I find myself a lot of the times, especially with challenging behaviors and some other things, pulling those books out to get some information from, because, you know, there's just, if you go down the rabbit hole of Google, you can get very lost very easily.
Yes.
But between like Google, just basic ideas and experience, or, you know, books is where I'm finding most of it.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else? Oh, there's some in chat. I'm sorry. Let me see what we got here. Okay, I've got one here. Okay, somebody else says Google too. pbslearningmedia.org. Do you want to say a few words about that, Eamon?
Sure, I can. So,
Okay.
We used and still use kind of PBS Learning Media a lot. It is, I think when it started, and this is some of you guys may remember this when it started, but it was a collection of the PBS stations across the nation that just put a bunch of educational content together, and it's free for teachers to use. You can sign up or you don't have to sign up, but it's got anything from videos to activities to, you know, preschool through, I think, even adult learning. And I think, and some of it, especially the local contents, is they've connected it to the early childhood standards. So it's they kind of already cheated and did the work for you, so you don't have to look all the extra stuff up. But we've used that a lot just because it, you know, things like Sesame Street, which appeals to younger kids, still has a bit of an appeal to older kids because they do have people like, you know, Usher and Billie Eilish and all these people who are way younger than I am, and I have no clue who they are. You know, in terms of musical people, maybe not Usher. I think we're the same age because I watched him on Star Search. So, you know, so there's a lot of great, you know, different content. I think like recently we've been using a lot of, there's a new show called Molly of Denali, which we don't use the show itself very much, but it's about a girl who's Native Alaskan who uses informational text. So, you know, for little kids, it's maps, and as they get older, it's recipes and, you know, history, you know, oral histories and stuff like that. So, you know, it kind of, I don't want to say it's an all age kind of thing, but it does lend itself to being able to be used with different grades that way. So, and it's free. I mean, it's a pretty sweet thing to use. I mean, you get lost in it, but you can also filter it by, you know, holidays. There's a whole section on voting in terms of, you know, teaching kids to vote, and, you know, what happens when you know, for little kids especially, what happens when your vote doesn't win, and how do you react to that, and those kind of things. I think some adults could probably use that too. But yeah, it's the plug, you know, the shameless plug for PBS Learning Media. So
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I've never have never been on that site before, and it's not on our resource page, so I'll be sure to add that there
Well,
for people.
And I think the folks over at KET probably would be happy to give anybody a kind of a refresher on it. I think some of you guys have worked with KET in the past, and they'd be happy to kind of give you a refresher or just a, you know, quick, you know, go through of PBS Learning Media. So
And KET, I do know has some resources too. They were invited today, but I guess something came up that they weren't able to be here. But KET was, we were hoping that they would be represented today to give out some of their resources as well. So somebody else in the chat said experience is best, backing it up with research and additional resources. Yes. Somebody else said, I start with my experience in the classroom and use Google to get detail and statistics. Yes. Groups I follow on Instagram have some fabulous ideas for activities. Would you care to share some of those groups?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Let me
I'm
look them up and I'm going to type them in because they just play games and many of them aren't even in American countries. So I'm
Okay.
going to type a few in the chat box.
Okay, perfect. People can check those out. Especially
Hey,
if there's,
Candy.
yes, yes, ma'am.
Oh, are you ready for another idea?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I haven't actually tried this one yet, but I know that in schools, they are using, a lot of social emotional type programs, and especially after COVID and so forth. But I want to encourage one of my centers to build a relationship with one or two of the schools from which they receive the school age children, and possibly get their hands on some of the materials that the schools maybe have not had a chance to implement, but would share with the center. And that way, what some of the things that children are doing in school in terms of social emotional learning, for example, maybe there are some activities that the center could carry over into their after school program.
Okay.
That's just a thought. I haven't tried that yet. If anyone else, I'd love to hear if it would work or not, but thank you.
So kind of having that collaboration between the say a licensed school age program that is not inside the school with the schools that they kind of come from. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so people are very excited about your groups there, Miss Brummel. So I'm going to let you type those in there. Somebody said they may even have to get on Instagram just so that they can see what you're talking about. All right, thanks for sharing your resources with us. Okay, so we're going to move on. And so the next question is, how often have you trained on school age in the last year? We know what you said in the needs assessment. I don't know specifically which person said what, but we did have some people, somebody said none specifically, once or twice. Very little since the start of the pandemic. Yes.
I don't know if other people are struggling with this, but a challenge I've always had is that school age is a really tough group to train because typically they're not available until evening hours. Many of the staff, because they're part-time, are not available during the day, or they need Saturday trainings, or it is a really, really tough group of people to train. There's not ever a ton of consistency around when programs are closed, if agencies are able to close programs. It's just by nature of the work, it's a tough group of people to try and find times to train.
Okay, so if they're offered on Saturdays, are they not coming on Saturdays? Is that what I'm hearing you say? Or,
well, to be perfectly honest, I quit training on Saturdays because I also work on Monday through Friday, and it's hard. I don't personally want to give up my Saturdays. I used to do it for teams, and then we really pulled back from it because we wanted to be mindful of not tapping into people's personal time. We started to get feedback that wasn't a time that people wanted it, or we would offer two trainings, like offer it in the morning and then offer the same training again after school to try and get it in. Yeah, I didn't find a ton of success with Saturdays. Now that was pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, I'm more selfish with my time.
so are there school age programs that are reaching out to you wanting this, and but yet they can't come up with a time to be able to do that?
No. So I just got trained as a trainer. I'm new here to Kentucky.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily out there publicly as a trainer. In my work in Ohio, I led a collaborative that we actually had funding to provide training for 9 different partner agencies that had 25 different school age programs throughout Cincinnati.
Okay.
So we got to develop it and then we would provide those trainings specific for the program. So I've not been in a position where people are seeking me out for trainings
Gotcha.
outside of specific funding streams.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, and I would also say part of the problem here with after school is, these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids a lot of the times that are in high school. And so they don't understand why they have to do trainings for this job, in their mind. Don't get me started on the power of the profession and that rant, but in their mind, they're basically babysitters. And so getting them to realize that there's so much more than that is part of the problem with trying to do trainings. So they think, okay, I get to come after school from 3:30 to 6 or 3:30 to 6:30, and then it's my time. And then so trying to get them to do trainings outside of that is hard.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I guess I was also thinking about some of the school age programs inside schools, after school, that some of those teachers are teachers, or the director is a teacher at the school. So they're already with them, all day long. So I wasn't thinking about the high school students who were working in some of these programs. So that's a good point about that.
Well, and for like my staff, I train on school age all the time here through the Y. It obviously doesn't count for, Tris or anything else because it's my staff directly working underneath me. We train on this all the time. We have staff meetings once a month and we can do things like that. But that's about the only time, like I said, that I can kind of get them to want to come to something outside of their regular work schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to say, I know that some places will do like a professional development day to get their training, and they will actually close or have a day off and do nothing but training that day. But I understand that that's hard for a lot of centers or somewhere like the Y would be difficult to be able to do that. But
quick question, has anybody done any gamified trainings? I wonder if some of the younger staff would be more excited about showing up for a review that was a breakout room or a Jeopardy or something else that taught the content through games.
It's a good thought.
Because that would be more fun to come to on an off day.
Yeah. So and hold that thought for just a minute, Julie. I want to say something about this in the chat. So Connie has said that most of hers are online and self-paced, but the 5 that she has are very popular. So Connie, you're saying that the school age providers are pretty good about taking online courses. That's what you're telling me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because they can do it at any time.
Right.
Okay. And would you care to share a couple of topics? I know you said that you did some business, and I can't remember the other one that you put in chat. I read it, but I can't remember.
I have one called School Age Children, the Age Range Challenge. I have School Age Relationships and Interactions. It's about bullying and that type of thing. School Age Life Skills, teaching life skills to school age children. And then I have Teaching School Age Business Basics.
Okay.
And I have School Age Science and Art.
Okay, thank you for sharing those. I just was making a little note of those so that we know what's out there. Thank you for sharing. So does anybody else want to say anything about how often they train, or why you don't train as much as you like to at school age?
For me, it's mostly just once a year for school age, where the child care counselor here does a school age super Saturday that's just school age, no all ages, no preschool, no, just only school age. And I think a bulk of the Fayette County schools go to it, as well as anybody that's around can sign up for it. And for me, I mean, mine is just kind of art, music, and movement for school age, which is very different, and it's not a hugely in demand. But it's just a kind of a once a year thing. And even though I do the topic once a year and update it and stuff, it's all new staff every year. It's hardly ever the same staff. Mm-hmm. So because like somebody had mentioned, they're 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, they're, college students that, it's a part-time gig for them. So it's just once a year. So it's really the only time they ever do it.
And I think I know the answer to this question before I ask you, Eamon, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I've been out of the loop for a little while. So the Child Care Council does open that Super Saturday school age to everyone, or is that just for Fayette County providers?
No, it's open for everybody. So I think they do it in partnership with Fayette County Schools, but it's open for anybody. Anybody can attend. So and there's usually a handful of other centers that come. So, and they think they try to do it around like September, October every year, just because, once, school gets rolling, public school gets rolling, they give a month or two to get settled in, and then they have the training for staff. So after all their required trainings that they need to take.
And so do they pick their trainers, and you may not be the one to answer this question, or is that a proposal that's given out to trainers that they can, some of these trainers who are looking to
Sure.
to train? So could, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's generally, I know I get an email too, but it's generally I can all call anybody interested in training these topics, let us know.
Okay.
And if there's no, if there's nobody that reaches out to them, they'll specifically go to folks that they know do school age trainings, or they've seen at a conference or interests that do school age specific trainings.
Okay. And I just wanted some of the people that are in different areas to hear that.
Sure.
Because I was correct on how that worked. I just wanted to double check. So
yeah, and I think the past few years they've invited a lady from Louisville, who does specific like outdoor games, and large motor games for school age, not more the third, fourth, fifth grade. And so she comes down because they don't have other people that do that really, and so
okay.
And I think it's nice that that's kind of like everyone knows to look forward to that every fall. So the consistency of having that, date, I think that's a smart business move. Not that you guys are in it to make a bunch of money, because the price is right for that, but for even people that are charging, it is helpful to kind of have some consistency in your scheduling.
Yeah. And maybe go ahead.
I was going to say, and just to clarify for everybody out there, like with the size of Fayette County Schools, not all of the after school programs are the same. Some of them are run by the Y, some of them are run by individual school, in the district, and so it's just a kind of a mix across the board. So
I just wanted to check on that. Is the delivery format now for that back to face-to-face? I believe that's what Debbie Link had told me from Child Care Council.
Yeah. So they're trying as much as possible to go back face to face, unless random things arise. So,
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if there's people from other agencies here in other parts of the state who may want to think about doing something like a Super Saturday once a year, like you said. And like Christine said, it's something that the school age providers know here in Fayette County that this is going to take place, so they can kind of rearrange their schedule and know that this is coming. And if directors will, promote that, then it can be a success for everybody. So thank you. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next one. And this has kind of been said already, but if you train school age staff, what training topics are requested most often? Is there one that you're finding? Somebody said in the beginning, challenging behaviors. Is there another one? Behavior for sure, somebody said. Somebody said special needs earlier too. I think that was Tammy that said special needs.
I've seen requests go by in Jefferson for SEL related to school age and activity facilitation.
Okay. I have lots of little post-it notes here on my desk. Okay. Anybody else? Something that they're seeing that's being requested a lot? Even if it's a training coach and you've heard of something in your area that's people are looking for. I think it's important that our trainers know what our providers are searching for. case they are somebody that has little expertise in it.
I think I can't remember who said it earlier, but I think, you know, the adulting classes, I think, you know, and that wasn't a word when we were younger. So, but I think the adulting classes, I think are big. And I know 4-H does a lot of those things.
Like the life skills.
Yes, yeah, the life
Okay.
skills, you know, those kind of things. And I think, you know, there are places for partnerships with folks that do that. You know, you just have to figure out, you know, content and guest trainers and all that kind of stuff. But I think there are organizations that would do that, or would come in to do, you know, a session like a cooking class, and you know, maybe not bring your dirty laundry. You know, but I thought that was a great idea. Just the sorting of the laundry and just teaching kids how to fold laundry, maybe
Yeah.
not the Marie Kondo way, but just folding laundry in general to help out. So
Yeah.
I like the suggestion that had been made relating to the challenging behaviors to break down, focus on strategies and break it down, and really offer trainings that include practice for the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also going along with that is just reinforcing that sometimes something will work one day, and then the next day, particularly if there's disabilities or trauma, it may not work quite as well. And it's helpful for staff to know that.
Absolutely.
And
I know-
that if you try it once, it's not necessarily going to work. It's not a one and done. It's a continuous repertoire of you trying and trying different strategies, but you can't try it one time and say, oh, it didn't work for me. Might not work that day, might not work, you know, but it might work the next one.
Right. And it may not be working for that particular child. There may be a different strategy that you need to try if the first one didn't work. So yeah, absolutely.
So these are trainings that are not necessarily highly requested, but they are trainings that I tend to find afterwards. People go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was maybe something we needed to think about. But structure and clear limits. So like establishing your routines and rituals and your behavior guidelines for in your program, how to think about that, and then how to make sure that you're executing it consistently. And then the other one is about like school age environments, how to do an analysis of your space, and are there opportunities to adjust the space so that what you are setting up is clearly indicating to children what's supposed to take place in that space? Or do we have overstimulating environments that may be increasing behaviors, or do we have understimulating environments? And how to do an analysis of that and kind of reset your space in a way that may be more supportive to the children you're serving.
Absolutely. And we kind of put some down that we've heard, and actually you all have touched on all of those. Somebody said something about social emotional. We had that down as one that could possibly be needed. We've also heard managing challenging behaviors, of course, environments. Actually, you just said that. And actually the one that we thought of was just the basics of licensing requirements for school age programs. Some of the providers do not realize that there are licensing requirements for those as well, and what they are. So just something on the basics. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate
Maybe some others that I had on my list that I had borrowed from another state that requires them is like prevention of harassment and bullying in school age environments, LGBTQIA+, understanding that and helping children through that process, diversity, equity, and inclusion topics, just understanding the developmental needs of school age children.
Okay. Now I know that you say that you're a new trainer. Are you ready to offer some of these?
So,
like you
so I'm not a new trainer. I'm new to Kentucky. So I actually have quite a few school age trainings. I participated in a national model with Weikert, and so I'm trained to do all of their youth work methods trainings, which I've had great success with over in Ohio, and I'm working to get trained on their social emotional learning trainings that they have. So I'm not a new trainer, but I'm new over here, and I'm trying to figure out my capacity to train. I'm in a bit of a unique position because I don't directly supervise our school age team. I'm more on the strategic leadership. So I do get to train our direct service staff. So I have been using my trainings with them.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Nice.
So selfishly, we're keeping it all in-house right now.
Okay, but we might be calling on you in the future. Okay. Next slide, Miss Sharon. Wow, I can't believe that we're down to 10 minutes. You all have made me feel really good today and doing all this talking. I'm excited.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what just happened. Let me move to the next slide. Okay.
Okay, so those of you who've been talking, what has worked for you to meet the needs of school age staff? What's something that you find really works in order to get these trainings out to school age providers? Oh, don't give me crickets. Oh, we got it in chat. Thank you so much. Keeping in mind that they have 5-year-olds and 12-year-olds. Yes. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you are training on something that's going to work for all age groups within the school age, because you're looking at kindergarteners and possibly somebody getting ready to go to middle school if they're about 12. Perfect.
Yeah, I've always found too that the training has to have some sort of tangible, like, how do I apply this at my site? And how do I get feedback on that before I leave here? I've also found like full day blast out, we're going to train all day long is super successful, or small bearable bits. Like we're either going to do it all day and go hard, or it's going to be just a little 2-hour session, come in, have a great training, get back out again.
Okay. So do you just shut down from no kids that day when you do it all day, or do you do it on like on a Saturday?
So this year we actually did 3 full days of back to school training and foundation setting before we opened up. We did just close for a day, but we did a full all staff event. We didn't get to train individually for our teams.
Okay, awesome.
I
Anybody
wanted
else?
to comment on, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Vicki, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to comment on the question about gaming and making trainings with games. I taught orientation for years, too many years, at least once a month for over 10 years. And I turned it all into games. And, you know, there's nothing more boring than orientation, but if you can turn it into games, people like it and they get competitive and, you know, it becomes, you know, and then you follow up afterwards with the handouts and the, you know, the hoo-ha that you have to do. But the games really did work with that. And I've done games with school age groups as well. And they tend to, you know, do well with that. I'm here today mostly because I know you don't want to hear my sad story or anything, but I teach CDA classes. And one thing my CDA students ask me all the time is, why is there not a CDA for school age? And for years and years, because I've been around for years and years, they kept telling us there was going to be a CDA for school age teachers. And of course, it never has happened. So I think that's probably a need somewhere. You know, there needs to be a more, not necessarily national, but a curriculum sort of developed for school age teachers. You know, I've got great CDA students and I've got a lot of them. So, and we meet every other week on Saturday on Zoom. So okay. 6 hours on Zoom is not easy, but I do everything but dance and stand on my head. So, and they answer me and they participate. So that's really good. I'm very pleased with it. And I work through the Child Care Council too. So anyway, they ask questions a lot about school age. And I was hoping today to get some information to be able to share with them about school age trainings and whatnot.
Well, actually, Miss Lauren Rachels from DCC actually shared in the chat that DCC is working on a school age youth development credential.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like it's probably coming. I don't know if Lauren wants to say
Okay.
anything more about that or.
Yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit. It's still in the works. We've had some focus groups, and some of the folks here today actually helped us with some of that feedback. We're working on the regulation piece. I mean, this probably wouldn't be something that would be done until mid to late 2023. Just to kind of give you guys a generalized time frame. Again, don't hold me to it. Because we know with regulations, things can get held up and changed, or if there's language or questions and feedback that need to be changed. But it is looking at, it's going to be like a leveled credential. So there'll be different levels within those credentials for people who hold different levels of specialization and knowledge and experience, specifically within the school age field. And there also will be one for infants and toddlers as well. So we will definitely be communicating more information to both trainers and providers as we get that further developed.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. Okay. Right, I think we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so we do have a couple. Now I'm going to actually update this before we put it into our online community for people to go back and be able to watch this, because we did get some more resources today. But two that we found is the CIOSA, which is the Kentucky Out of School Alliance. And the link is there. I don't know if somebody can throw that in chat really quick for for them. That would be great if you could. And then the National After School Association. Also, you can actually log in to that one. They actually have resources as a tab, so you can go in and get some resources from them. However, the CIOSA, Kentucky Out of School Alliance, there is actually what they have is a data explorer, and you can go in and type in your county, or you can also do it by zip code, and it will show you kind of the need in that area. So if you're looking for what your area needs and how many school age programs and things like that, you can go in and kind of check that out. So that's kind of a neat little thing. And that I have to thank Miss Julie for, because she let me know that that was available. So is there any more resources that anybody wants to share? I do have the one that Eamon shared that we'll put on there. And there was a couple other ones that a couple people talked about. Anything else? People are getting tired at the end of the day, aren't they? Okay.
I have found that cooperative extension is a wonderful resource for school age. And many times, depending on the workload of the youth development agent, the 4-H agent, they will come in and help you set up clubs based on 4-H curriculums. And gosh, we hatched baby chicks, and we did so many things and a photography club, and just cooperative extension is a wonderful resource for after school programs.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Julie just stick something in the chat. Oh, she's actually sticking all of our links in there. Thank you, Julie. So if you want them, you can go over there and copy and paste. Okay, all right. Well, I just want to tell you how thankful I am for all of you all today and the conversation that we've had. I hope that there's been some light bulbs that have gone off and things that you can do in your area for school age training. And I know that I've got a lot of notes for training coaches to maybe get together and see what we can do across the state to get more school age trainings available. But on that note, we are skipping the month of December because of the holidays for our trainer connection. But in January, we will be back, and we'll be back on our normal third Tuesday, so the third or fourth Tuesday. Anyway, it will be the 24th at 2 o'clock, and it's going to be on content review games that you won't forget. And that is, the link is on there to register, but you will also receive an email from your training coach, just like normal. Julie or Candace, do you want to say anything about the January trainer connection?
We're looking to do something on those content review games, things like virtual escape room, virtual scavenger hunt, not things in your house, but things online, online games you can play, Jeopardy, Pictionary, all sorts of other games that you can use to teach or review content as part of your training. So that will be the focus.
Okay. And our last slide, or next to last slide, is just to let everybody know that this Trainer Connection, just like all of them in the past, will be on our Trainer Connections online community. So if you liked something or missed something or missed a link, you can always go back in and watch it again. Or if anybody, another trainer that you know wants information, they can go back in and get it as well. Again, you just go to our Child Care Aware website. Go down to adult learning and then follow down until you see Trainer Connections online community, and they are all there. So you can go back and watch that. Okay. All right, and it is 2:58, guys. I'm so proud that we were able to discuss for the whole hour. Thank you all so much for being involved, for joining us today. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Sharon, who was my tech support today and was doing my PowerPoint, or me, and we're both at uky.edu. Does anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything before we go? Thank you, Eamon. It was nice seeing you too today. Anybody else? Okay. If not, then you guys are free to go.
Have a great afternoon and a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
You too.